welcome to the new video of Angular. So in this video we are going to see what is MVC architecture in Angular, and apart from that we are going to just go through a data binding concept in Angular. So as we move ahead with Angular topics in the further videos, we are going to hear this term which is data binding. So we'll just see few basics of that, what is data binding mean, and then so that this thing would be useful for future videos that we will be doing. So let's first see with MVC architecture, which stands for Model View Controller. So you might have already worked with that approach, but let me explain you in terms of a normal analogy as well. So let's suppose when you go to a restaurant, you see a menu card. So that is a view part of it, right? We see the food, what we want to order, and then we give the order to a waiter, which can be acting as a controller, right? Who manages the things to see, who acts as a bridge between the view, which is a customer, and the kitchen. He takes the order and goes to the kitchen. So kitchen is where the actual things are being prepared, so that can be considered as a model. So this is a model view controller. So view is something which we see on a screen. Controller is the one who takes the action from the screen, and model is something where the business logic is put, right? So similar thing we can imagine in case of Angular as well, where we have this components, right? So if you talk about this HTML component, this is what the component which has been displayed to the user, right? If you go to this part is where like the actual user sees, and this header.ts. So as of now we haven't written any classes, we haven't wrote any functions or actions here, or we haven't write any business logic here, but yeah, we'll write few of those. But here is the thing where we would be writing the actions, right? Let's suppose if I click on certain button, then what should happen? So that is where we are going to write this at this part, which is in the header.ts file. So any TypeScript file in this component part would be considered as a controller. And then maybe here we can add one more file where we would be keeping the functions, right? So let's suppose if you want to put a data into a database, so in that case we can use that particular TypeScript file where the data is been put into the database, right? So that can be called as a model. So these are the three parts in terms of Angular. Okay, so let's suppose here in this .ts file we have a variable which is called as name. Okay, let me give here a random name, maybe called as bist that quotes. So this name or this variable is present inside this particular .ts file. So let's suppose you want to display this part or this name into this HTML, right? So if you want to dynamically display that, so what is the step is we can write in this way, where in the double curly braces we can put that particular variable name, which is name. So this part, right, where we are putting this particular variable into this curly braces, this is called as interpolation. So and this is also called as data binding thing. So why it is called as data binding, because we have a data here, and this data we are binding onto the view of this, right? So this is a view which is HTML, so we are trying to bind this data on a view part. So that's why this is called as a simple data binding, right? And the way we are binding it using the curly braces or double curly braces, this is called as interpolation. So if you just see this in action, if I just refresh, or it's refreshed already, you can see this name, right, which is there. So here we are passing the data from .ts file to HTML file, right? So this is something from a controller, we are passing it to view. Now let's suppose if I have a function here, let's suppose, what is that? Let me put a function here which says uh, on button click. So let me just put something here which is simple, that which says button is clicked, not client, it's clicked. Okay, so now let's suppose if I want to trigger this function, right, from front end, then how to do it is like here we can just put a button here, maybe let me put a button, and here I can write click, and here I can write this function. Let me just open this as well. Okay, so this is how whatever the button we have on the screen, we are clicking on this, we are having this action as click, and in this way this particular function would be executed. So if you go to this and see the console, okay, so you see this button, it's pretty small because I haven't added any label to it. Let me add some label which says click me. Now if I go here and click on this, see in the console we can see that particular log, right, which says button is clicked. So now what we are doing here is from the front end we are passing certain things right here. So this is called as event binding. So as of now we haven't passed any event, we are just passing it a simple way, we are just calling a function, but here in this particular button we can pass an event as well. So this is also kind of a binding, right, where we are binding the front end action and we are processing that particular thing into this particular .ts file. So this is also one type of binding. So we'll just see these things in this video as of now, and in future and in next video we're going to deep dive into what is more of a data binding, how are the different things, what are the different things that we can pass and how those things are managed overall. But yeah, hope you have got this concept, which is MVC. So here if you see, this HTML is a view part of it, .ts is called as a controller, and whatever this .ts file will do, maybe this logic we can put it here as well. So for now we have just put this logic in this particular .ts file, but if logic is pretty huge, or if this particular thing is further connected to a database, right, where we need to put a data into a database, so we can have a separate .ts file also that would be acting as a model. So this is .ts file which has the component properties, that selector, all those things. This can be called as controller, this is view, and the model which will be actually doing the business logic of importing and passing the data to further DB. So this is all about MVC architecture and data binding things. Hope you have got this. In the next video let's kick start with more details on that. Thank you.